I want to thank you for joining us again for another episode of Sermon Highlight. We have our pastor, Dr. Harold Thomas III. I want to thank you for being here. Just to talk about the sermon, just give us the highlight, the main points. Your topic today was beware.
Yes.
We have to beware. All right. So talk a little bit about that before I have another question that I want to ask you as a follow-up as well.
Sure. I'm delighted to be here, Elder. Delighted for you joining us today. My topic was beware. It can kind of give the connotation like it's negative, but the word beware is often used within Scripture, in particular Jesus. Jesus told us to beware of hypocrisy, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees, beware of doing your good works so that men will praise you. He says, beware of men who will send you to the councils to have you put to death. He gave us plenty of bewares, but today I want to talk about the beware in Luke chapter 12, verses 13 through 21, and that is to beware of covetousness, which is beware of greed. And so that's how I came up with that, beware.
All right, beware. So greed kind of play in that as well, where you have to be aware of, things that you're trying to accumulate. Mm-hmm. Because you would get so caught up in it. Because I remember the story that you told about the guy who was doing all his sales stuff or something along that line, right? That he was doing, but he greed played a big part in it, in which it causes him to lose everything.
Everything. He lost everything. His industry was illegal. I will say that. He was illegal. He had swindled people out of millions. And to the point where he had a falling out with one of his colleagues in his criminal enterprise over $575,000. However, that was small in comparison to the cash that he had on hand when the police arrested him. He had $40 million cash in his possession. $575,000 is a lot to us, but to comparison to how much he had on hand was 40 million. He had that much on, but he was so greedy. He wanted it all. He wanted more. And it led to his capture and eventual, imprisonment. But greed is a human problem. Jesus warned us, beware of it, to the point where Jesus tells us in the 10 Commandments, Exodus 20, verse 17, do not covet. Do not covet your neighbor's house, his wife, his ox, his animals, his children. Don't covet anything. And this word covet in the 10 Commandments move beyond just money. But we covet people, we covet things, we covet property. We want other people's things to the point where we're willing to do anything to get it. And it absorbs our thoughts and it will cause us to even destroy our relationship with Christ. So covetousness is an issue of the heart. And what Jesus is trying to get us to move to avoid those things that will take so much control of your heart that you're willing to abandon your life with Christ, your family members, everything. So covetousness is a very dangerous thing. That's why Jesus said, beware. And it's interesting. The word beware is a verb. That means it requires action. It's not a mental assent, but it is a behavior modification. Beware. Watch out for it.
And another part to that itself is to get our house in order.
Yes.
And once we have our house in order, I mean, all of this thing, if we have our house in order, then we can avoid some of these pitfalls.
That's a great point. It's interesting. The parable in Luke chapter 12, verses 13 to 25, Jesus tells the parable of the rich fool. The parable came into insight because a man in the crowd interrupted Jesus and said, hey, tell my brother to share the portion of my father's estate with me. And so it talked about estate and estate planning. The father put things in order, but it did not prevent siblings from arguing over what was left over. And Jesus was touching on the issue was greed. It wasn't an issue of he needed the money. It was an issue of greed. And what I wanted to just share some points for the members and everyone listening, that estate planning, estate issues started with Jacob and Esau. They fought over birthrights, and who will get when dad is gone.
Yep.
And so that craving for more and more, it can destroy families, brothers. It can destroy so much. And what Jesus was trying to get us to, get us to watch covetousness, watch your heart. Don't let your heart overextend you that you're willing to commit crimes, destroy homes. And I talked about estate planning, and I share with everyone else. Parents, family members, discuss estate planning. Parents, get your wills and your trust in order. If something happens to you, how do you want your property distributed? Because we are stewards of God's properties, not owners. And you want your last act of stewardship to glorify God and not create a mess because you didn't write out and communicate what you wanted to happen to your property when you're no longer on this earth.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Pastor, I mean, you touched on all the points that I wanted you to touch in. So I want to thank you for coming back here and sharing the highlights of the message. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to share this one point. I shared what the issue was. Let's beware of covetousness. How do we overcome covetousness and greed? One is ask God to give you the spirit of contentment.
Yeah.
And develop a heart of gratitude, because when you appreciate what you have, it will make you more content.
Yes.
And not discontent. And that your faith is more precious than gold. And that's what you want to be rich in. And that is faith in God. Right. Thank you, Elder. I appreciate it.
No worries, man. Thank you. All right.